Today's episode is going to cover two of my favorite topics that I love diving into. It's stress and our digestive system, basically how our stress levels can really impact our digestion. We're going to cover as well the gut-brain axis and how our gut and brain are literally in communication all the time, letting each other know what's going on in one place and the other, so that we can properly respond and adapt to our environment and the foods that we're consuming. And as well, we're going to really highlight how even though you might be eating healthy foods, you still might not be digesting and assimilating your foods properly by being in too much of a fight or flight response state. So we're really going to cover how important being in a calm and ready to digest and relax state is to properly digest and assimilate your foods, and how you could actually be eating all the healthy foods, but if you are not in a proper state for digesting those foods, you're just not going to be able to digest them properly. So we're really going to dive into that. I love this topic. It's something that I've dealt with personally, and therefore one of the reasons why I go pretty deeply into this topic. And I'll try to keep it concise on today's episode, but go ahead and get yourself a nice warm drink and get settled in, because we're going to jump into this topic today. So first off, please, if you haven't already subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe to this podcast on whatever platform you're listening to. Leave a rating, leave a review, share it with a family, a friend, a loved one, anyone who could benefit from hearing these episodes. And as well, check out the show notes or the description of today's episode to see all the supplements that I personally take, and as well get that little discount code for being a listener to the show. Appreciate y'all very much. Let's jump in to what the gut-brain axis is. So the gut-brain axis is literally like the hotline. It's the communication line between your brain and your gut. It's where they're always communicating through, and the main pathway in which they typically will do this is the vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve, while it connects to many various parts of the body, various organs as well, it very much so has a direct communication between your brain and your gut, and they are constantly speaking with each other. And you might be wondering, like, what kind of signals are being sent back and forth between these two? Well, you can think of it like being stuck in traffic, maybe going to a really awkward like family dinner or something along those lines, right? Your brain is going to be sending like a stress alert signal down to your gut, and then your gut can respond in various different ways, from butterflies to cramps to even like completely shutting down your digestion. So it gets a little bit dramatic, even if it's not something that's super serious or even anything related to the food that you're about to eat. Your body will simply respond in that way because what you are perceiving as a stressful event will make it feel for your body like you are not in a safe environment to be consuming food, and therefore you need to be on high alert in case you might need to all of a sudden dart out of there or fight for your life, right? But here's the thing, it's not just your brain that's sending signals down to your gut. The reverse is also true. So your gut is also sending signals up to your brain. So for example, if you were to eat food that does not agree with your digestive system, whether it's like food that has been heavily deep fried, for example, or a super sugary drink, your gut can actually send signals up to your brain to make you feel, for example, moody or even anxious or nervous. Like there's a bunch of different kind of ways that it can make you feel, and it can actually be from your gut sending responses up to your brain, and then now having you kind of react outwardly in a certain way because of foods that you've consumed. So it is a two-way pathway here on this gut-brain axis, and communication is flowing both ways all the time. And something that's really wild about your digestive system is that your gut is a lot of times referred to as a second brain. So I know that sounds kind of weird, but indeed your gut actually has its own nervous system called the enteric nervous system, which has about 500 million neurons, which is actually more than your spinal cord even has. Now, I know that your digestive system isn't like out there solving puzzles and, writing a book or poetry or whatever, like what we would think your neurons should be doing. But it's doing a really important job, and that is being a master at digesting and assimilating your food, literally running everything from digestion to motility, to even gagging. Like all of these are run by this nervous system. And so one of the really cool things about the gut is that it can actually produce chemicals, especially chemicals that we once thought were mainly produced in the brain, but are actually produced in your gut. And one of those is serotonin. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with serotonin, it is that feel-good kind of chemical that helps to actually regulate your mood. So this chemical actually has a profound effect on your brain and your mood and the way you kind of show up in the world, right? But it's all produced or primarily produced in your gut. Like I said, about 90% of it is actually produced in your gut. So taking care of your gut health will have a direct response on your actual mood and being in a good state, in a good mood. And this is actually one of the things that I've been really big on in, I would say about almost the last year, maybe the last like 6 to 8 months. And that's saffron. Saffron, yes, literally like the herb saffron. It's incredibly powerful. If you have not tried taking saffron on a consistent basis, then I highly recommend that you do so, because saffron is actually shown to improve your like serotonin levels and to improve your mood and help regulate your mood as well. This is something that has been used for a super long time in the Middle East. People have been making tea out of saffron and cooking with saffron for a super long period of time. So you can literally just go buy some saffron, which it's super expensive. Saffron is one of the most expensive herbs out there or spices out there, but it is very powerful. And so if you want, you can actually brew some saffron tea to help regulate your mood, help you to feel a little bit better. Or if you're like me, I like to just kind of keep things simple. I already have like my whole morning process with coffee or tea in the morning. So the simplest way for me is I just take it in a supplement form, which I take the Happy Drops from Organifi. They're these little gummies and they're really tasty as well. So they're kind of nice to take in the morning or whenever you want to take them. But as well, they have really good reviews. Like if you go and look online at Organifi's webpage for their mood drops or Happy Drops, sorry, you will see the reviews on there. They get incredible reviews on people feeling so much better just by taking these, which they have saffron in them, and they also have a few other things in them as well. But saffron is the main thing that we're focusing on here, and it's really helping with the serotonin levels. So if you have not tried these before and you deal with things like just kind of like a little bit of depression or anxiety, of course, this is not meant to treat or prevent anything like that. I'm not a medical professional, so please, always go through them before you do anything. But I really believe you have nothing to lose by trying these out, right? I mean, it's literally a food, and you can just take these in the morning. And for me personally, within about like the first week, I started noticing that, not like you just don't have any problems in life anymore, but rather you're able to deal with those problems better and you're able to bounce back from them a little bit better. So if you're really just, having a lot thrown at you, I just feel like you're actually better equipped to kind of handle and deal with those things as they come your way. That's how it's felt for me, at least. And a lot of the people who have taken it as well have felt that way. But like I said, this is a time-tested thing. This has been used for a super long time in the Middle East, brewing a tea out of saffron to literally help regulate mood. So if you want to try out the Happy Drops, go ahead and check out Organifi. I do have them in the description of today's show, and you get a 20% discount code, so it's not a bad idea to give those bad boys a try. But it's really interesting to understand now that there really is that super strong connection between the gut-brain axis, or with the gut-brain axis between the brain and the gut. And now, as we just get deeper and deeper into understanding our bodies, we're now finding out that, yeah, indeed, the gut does produce 90% of your serotonin. So it's very crucial for your overall well-being and really that mood regulation. And so just as what you're eating and how your gut feels can send that signal up to your brain and influence how your brain feels and how you feel, once again, we can reverse that, and what the brain is going through can also affect the gut very seriously. So for example, if you are perceiving stress in one way or another, it doesn't have to be anything related to literally about to die, right? Like it doesn't have to be like getting chased by a tiger. It can be traffic. It can be going to an uncomfortable, awkward lunch where you're going to have a really tough conversation with the person, or whatever it might be, right? Just not feeling comfortable. Perceiving some level of stress can have a very profound effect on your digestive system. So for example, it can show up as slowing things down, like constipation or bloating. It can also be showing up as speeding things up. So then it can kind of result in stomach cramps or loose stool or the runs, right? And so really it just depends on your body type and kind of how it reacts to the stress, but it can show up in either of these ways. And as well, it can even make eating a very healthy meal feel like a disaster. It can make it feel like your body isn't ready to properly receive and assimilate that food. So once again, this is coming back to, even if you're eating the right stuff, if your body is not in the right state to receive that food, it can show up as, stomach cramps, or like I mentioned, like diarrhea or bloating or constipation, anything, right? It can show up in all these different forms. And so really having the proper state when we are consuming food is absolutely crucial to making sure we're properly assimilating and digesting that food. And if you are feeling stressed for a long period of time, then this can actually have a really profound effect on your digestive health in the long run, because your gut microbiome can actually be getting affected by the perceived stress. So if you are feeling heavily stressed while you're trying to digest food, and it just continues all throughout the day, you're constantly feeling this level of stress and high levels of cortisol, this can actually throw your gut microbiome, which is all of basically the bacteria from your mouth to the other end. It can throw them out of whack. It can create a gut dysbiosis, which can lead to even more stress. And it's this vicious cycle that can just continue and continue. So how do we stop that? How do we find, a happy medium where we have just enough stress, a healthy level of it, but then we're able to regulate it and bring it down when we need to actually digest our foods? Well, there's a few different things that we can do, a few different practices. And of course, in these episodes, I never leave you with just the problem. I always try to find some form of a solution for these episodes and for you as well. So first things first, eating healthy food is absolutely a great place to start. But as I mentioned earlier, it's not going to fix everything, right? Eating healthy food is very important, and it is going to be nourishing for the body, and it can help to actually heal the gut lining and all of that good stuff. But if we're not in a state that's ready to receive, then we're not going to be able to digest properly, and we can be causing a lot of havoc in our digestive system. And so really, we need to move out of this fight or flight response into a rest and relax and digest state. Now, this is something I dealt with a lot as a kid. I was constantly nervous about random stuff. I would get nervous about running out of gas in a car, which, I don't know why I was getting nervous about that, but I would get really worried, and it would always upset my stomach. I remember there were times where I would get nervous and then immediately my stomach would respond with cramps. So it's really wild, the connection there. But what we can do is we can directly tell our body and our nervous system that we're in a safe space, and we can relax, and we can properly digest our food. So your body has two different states of your nervous system. You have the gas pedal and you have the brake. The gas pedal, that's your fight or flight response. That's your get up and go response. That is your sympathetic nervous system. Then you have the brake pedal, right? The slow things down, the rest, relax, and digest state. And that is your parasympathetic nervous system. In today's world, we heavily live in the world of pressing the gas pedal to the metal, right? Like full steam ahead, because we deal with a lot of stressors, right? And there are a lot of background stressors, things like rent and making sure you're doing a good job at work, right? There's all these different types of stressors that follow us around all throughout the day. So we have to train our bodies to get out of that state, take our foot off of the gas pedal, and instead apply a little bit more pressure onto the brake and get into that rest and relax and digest state, the parasympathetic nervous system state. Now, there's a few ways to do it. And the very first one I'm going to mention is my favorite one to do. It's, I think, the most the most effective thing that we can do to get into our rest and digest kind of state. And that is your breath. And I know that sounds a little bit woo-woo, a little bit weird, but it is proven to work. How you breathe really controls your nervous system. So if you see someone who's very stressed, a lot of the times they're going to have their shoulders lifted up. They're going to be breathing into their upper chest in these in these shallow little quick breaths. Typically, they're never taking these deep breaths that would show that they are relaxed, right? So they're really living in this tense kind of up here in the upper body type state. They are in a very stressed state. So really, just the opposite of that is true. If you are able to take deep, full breaths where you expand the belly on the inhale and contract it on the exhale, that is going to signal to your body that you are in a safe state. If you're breathing shallow, quick, deep, little breaths, that's telling your body, okay, we need to be ready to go. We don't know what's going on, and we need to be ready to react at any moment's notice. But if you can tell your body and show your body that, hey, actually, we're in a very safe place and we can rest and digest all the food that we need to, then all that requires is just a little bit of deep breathing. And so for me, the simplest breath that we can possibly do here is just take a slow, deep inhale through the nose for like the count of 6. So count like 1, 2, 3, 4, like that slow. Count up to 6, breathe through your nose. And then on the exhale, breathe out through your mouth, but you want to breathe like you're blowing out through a tiny little straw. And you want your exhale to be longer than your inhale. So if you breathe in for the count of 6, you should exhale for the count of 10 or 15. Super simple breath. Do like 15 or 20 of those. And I promise you, after you do 15 to 20 of those, you will feel so much more relaxed. It is going to have a massive effect on how you feel. So that to me is the first thing you should go to. Like if you're about to sit down and eat a meal, do that. Like take some deep breaths. If there's people around you, I don't know, go to the bathroom or something and do those kind of breaths first and then come to eat. But doing that can really activate your parasympathetic nervous system. And also when you're taking in your breaths, you want to expand your belly on the inhale, which is going to draw air deeper into your lungs. It's going to go in there and help to clear out a lot of that stagnant air. And then on the exhale, when you contract your belly, you're helping to push a lot of that stagnant air out of your lungs. So that to me is the number one thing you should be working on, is focusing on that type of breath. There's also things like the box breathing, which is very simple. It's inhaling to the count of 4, holding that breath for the count of 4, exhaling to the count of 4, and then holding there at the bottom for the count of 4. And then you just repeat that. So inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4, repeat. That's another way to get into your parasympathetic nervous system and activate that state as well. So either one works. I just think the other one's super simple and easy. It's like shorter inhale, longer exhale, but they're both still, pretty long and slow and controlled. And you breathe through your nose and you exhale out of your mouth. Super easy, super simple, but it has a really profound effect on your nervous system. Number 2 is going to be mindful eating. So a lot of the times we are not present with our food and we are watching a TV show, we're scrolling through Instagram or TikTok or whatever it might be. We're listening to gossip and, getting all worked up about something instead of actually just paying attention to our food. And being present and mindful with our food can also have a very profound effect on our nervous system and help to activate that parasympathetic nervous state. So for example, you could sit by yourself alone with just your food, no friends, no people, nothing, right? No phones, no TVs, nothing to distract you from your food. And while you're eating, be very mindful about, each bite that you take. Maybe you chew it like 20 times and you count each time you take that bite. And maybe you are focusing on the smell and the taste and the texture of the food, right? So you're really trying to bring a lot of your mind into the present moment and focused on the meal that is being consumed, right? And literally nourishing your body. And when you bring that level of presence to the food that you're eating, it can really help to activate your parasympathetic nervous system and really just keep you focused on the food that you're eating, as opposed to just woofing down some food really quick and, having your mind elsewhere. So those are the first 2 things that you can do. And then the third thing is going to be some light movement. So walking is a really great one to help regulate the nervous system. It can help calm you down. We don't want to, do anything that's going to really spike our nervous system right now. So I'm not talking about getting out there and doing like a HIIT workout. I'm talking about the real slow, easygoing stuff. So going out for a walk, maybe not like a super slow walk, but you don't have to be jogging out there, right? Just a nice little brisk pace. Keep a nice little walk going. This can be good to pair with before or after a meal because it can also help with digestion. And then as well, we can also do things like yin yoga. I'm a big fan of yin yoga. It's literally just slow, deep stretching. This can be really good for your digestion as well, which you don't want to eat food and then go and just start doing a yoga class. You want to give yourself a couple hours in between the two. But when you do yin yoga, it's a great way to tap into your parasympathetic nervous system and to activate it and just bring you into that rest and relax state. So those are going to be the 3 practices I would give you. I mean, the 4th one is kind of just eating healthy, eating nourishing foods for your gut, like bone broth, for example, things that are anti-inflammatory like ginger and turmeric. These can be really good for our digestive system as well. But the 3 practices that are really great at getting you into, that parasympathetic nervous system are definitely going to be your breath work, the slow, deep breaths, being mindful when you eat, and then doing slow movement practices, right? That are going to help activate that parasympathetic nervous system. So that's going to do it for the second brain, the gut-brain axis, the impact stress has on our digestion, and as well, the impact that digestion in our gut has on our mood and how we show up in the world. This is an incredible topic that I'm probably going to be going so much deeper on in the future, but I wanted to just kind of have like a concise episode that really hits the major points here and also leaves you with a few practices. But truly, if you have digestive issues, please give this one a try. Like, I can't explain how powerful this practice really is and how little attention it actually gets. We always focus on, the food that we're eating, which is very important, and, all the other stuff around that. But we don't actually think about the state that we're in when we're consuming our foods and the role that that plays. There is communication going on between the two. And if you can't find yourself in a calm and relaxed state, then unfortunately, you are not going to be digesting your food properly. This played a big role for me, and I have seen the impacts firsthand, so I highly recommend that you give this a go, give this a try. That's pretty much going to do it for today's episode. Please just remember to eat mindfully, breathe deeply. If your stomach's giving you a tantrum, take some deep breaths, maybe go for a walk, and that's pretty much going to do it, y'all. So please go ahead, once again, subscribe, leave a rating, a review. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Share this episode with someone who can benefit from it, and truly, truly give this one a practice. Please take a little bit of moment out of your day to take some deep breaths before a meal. Find time to get into a parasympathetic nervous system state and stop stressing so much, because it is taking a very serious toll, not just on your health, but on your digestive system. So, all right, y'all, that's going to do it. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Thank you all for tuning in, and I will see you on the next episode. Peace.